After major keys, minor keys are the most popular choice for songwriters. The sound of the minor key is often described as brooding, sad, or melancholy. Listen to how it sounds here with the A minor scale, which has the notes A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. The scale you just heard is actually called the natural minor scale. You may also see it labelled as the Aeolian Mode or the 6th mode of the major scale. When someone mentions the minor scale or key, they are almost always referring to the natural minor. It is actually one of 3 minor scales, the other 2 being harmonic minor and melodic minor. Here are the chords that are found in the A minor key with the scale notes that go into each chord. A minor, B diminished, C major, D minor, E minor, F major, and G major. These are the diatonic chords in the A minor key. That is, chords that are made purely with notes from the A minor scale. A minor is a good key for guitar players because it has lots of chords that can be played as simple open chords. It is also popular on the piano because you just use the white notes. You can see that each of the diatonic chords has a Roman numeral above it. Lowercase indicates minor chords and uppercase major chords. This helps you to understand chord progressions as the Roman numerals can apply to any minor key and simply indicate the function of the chords. Let's start building some minor key chord progressions now and look at how you can write your own. To start with, I'll play you a simple 1-4-5 progression. In major keys, 1-4-5 is a foundational progression using all major chords. It takes you through tension and resolution and can anchor you in a major key. The minor version works in a similar but subtler way. 1, 4 and 5 are all minor chords in minor keys, so they create the sadness that is associated with the key. Please note that examples will be in the key of A minor. Up next is a popular minor key chord progression, 1-5-6-7. This progression starts off with minor chords. These provide a melancholy which clearly shows that this is in a minor key, like the first example did. The second half introduces 2 major chords. They provide a certainty to the progression, but by no means happiness or joy. This brings you back around nicely to the minor 1 chord. The progression is also built around a rising E, F, G bass line, which provides an uplifting end to the sequence. Want some more major keys to try out? 7 easy songwriting keys are available to make your chord progression writing a breeze. Don't waste any more time searching. Go to majorkeychords.com now and download your free guide today. Link is also in the description. You've heard 5 of the diatonic minor key chords. Let's see another one in the next example with 3. Be aware that if you build your chord progressions around the 3 chord, it can start to sound like you are in the major key with the 3 chord as its tonic. For example, in these examples, that would be C major. It's still a great chord to use in minor keys, as you will hear now. Also listen to how the 4 chord has a softer pull back to the 1 tonic chord. You saw at the beginning of the video that each chord in the minor key is constructed with 3 notes. For this reason, they are known as triads. You usually play the root note as the lowest note in a chord. This is where the chord letter comes from. But you can also play one of the other 2 notes as the lowest note in a chord. These are known as inversions. They are shown with a slash after the chord letter. This shows you the note that is being played as the bass note. In the next example, I'll play the first inversion of the 5 chord. In the key of A minor, the 5 chord is E minor. You'll see that this chord is E minor/G, so G is being played as the lowest note here. First inversions are also shown with a small 6 next to them. In this next example, the first inversion creates a pleasing descending step bass line. You go from A to G to F, and then back to G with the 7 chord to bring us around to the 1 chord. Always remember that inversions are available to bring new interest and life to your chord progressions. If you are familiar with major key progressions, you'll know what an important role the 5 chord plays. It creates tension that wants to be resolved by moving back to the 1 tonic chord. This helps to reinforce the key. You will have seen that the 5 chord in minor keys is a minor chord. This plays a similar role to the major 5, but its effect is weaker. But why is this? In the key of A minor, the 5 chord is E minor. It has the notes E, G and B. When you move from 5 to 1, from E minor to A minor, the G note resolves to the A note. This is a movement of a whole step or tone from the flat 7th note in the A minor scale to the 1 note. But look at what happens if you use the major 5 chord, E major. This changes 1 note in the chord. The G note is now G sharp. So when you move from E major to A minor, the distance between the note has been halved. G sharp to A is just half a step or semitone. This creates more tension and therefore a greater feeling of resolution. Using a major 5 chord in minor keys is an example of borrowing a chord. It is a chord from outside of the existing key. In this case, it is borrowed from the parallel major key. You could also think of it as being borrowed from the harmonic minor key. Parallel keys share the same root or tonic note. For example, we're using A minor here, so parallel keys include A major, A Dorian, A Lydian, etc. Another term that applies here is modal mixture or modal interchange. This is when you take a chord from a parallel key and use it in your progression. You can usually feel and hear when this has happened, as there is a sense that something has changed. This is only a brief change, too short to call it a modulation or key change. We then go back to diatonic chords from the key. Now that you understand this concept, let's see it in action. I'll play the 1-4-5 progression again. In the first half, I'll use the minor 5 chord. In the second, I'll use the major 5 chord. Listen to the difference the major 5 brings. The major 5 features in loads of popular minor key progressions. Here it is in a mostly major progression with a nice descending feeling. Also listen out for the dominant 7th version of the 5 at the end. This further intensifies the cadence with the 1 chord. Here's another major 5 chord progression. All of the progressions so far have been based on 4-bar blocks, but now I'll show you a longer progression. This uses all of the chords in the minor key, including the diminished 2 chord, which I haven't played you yet. Listen to the dissonance and drama it brings, whilst being a step on the winding path of this progression. Another borrowed chord you'll see in minor keys is the major 4. This has once again come from the parallel major key. You could also consider it as coming from the parallel Dorian key. Listen to it in the next example. Here's another minor progression that uses the major 4 chord. You might recognise it from House of the Rising Sun. Having the chords in number order like this creates a rising feeling, also known as an escalator effect. You heard the tense diminished 2 chord in an earlier progression. A frequent trick to make them sound a little more palatable is to play them as minor 7 flat 5 chords. These are also known as half diminished chords. In minor keys, these are often used as a predominant chord. That means they feature before the dominant, which is also known as the 5 chord. You can try it out before the minor or major 5 chords. Have a listen to both ways in the next example. I'll now put some of what you've learnt into a full song example. The song will feature chord durations that aren't just 1 per bar. This will provide some more interest compared to the earlier examples. It has a basic intro, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus structure. Sections are 8 bars each to keep things simple, but you can experiment with different lengths in your own songs. The song starts in the intro with the 3 chord. This is a deliberate idea to briefly centre the song in the C major key. This is then broken when the 5 dominant 7th is heard and heads to the 1 chord at the start of the verse to refocus the tonic around A minor. The verse utilises all of the chords in the key, like one of the examples I showed you earlier. It uses the rhythmic idea from the intro to provide some cohesion across the song. The first half ends with the minor 5, and the second ends with the dominant 7th 5 to create a strong link into the chorus, which starts with the 1 chord as well. The chorus uses a simple 1 chord per bar rate of chord change. This separates it from the rest of the song. The mainly major 1-7-6-5 progression starts the chorus with a nice descending feel. In the second half of the chorus, I utilise chord inversions to create another descending bass line, E, D, C, B. The chorus also avoids the 3 chord entirely to make it crystal clear that this is in Aeolian and not a major key. The bridge section introduces the half diminished chord. It follows on from the inversion in the end of the chorus, which uses the B bass note. The bridge is shorter in nature and uses the same chord change rate throughout. This, combined with not using the 1 chord, means that it has an unsettled, twisting nature that feels like it could go anywhere. It ends with the 5 dominant 7th chord to bring us back to the stability of the chorus. Have a listen to the song and then have a go at writing your own minor key chord progression. You've learnt how to write a chord progression, but you need to be able to write the rest of a minor key song. Watch the playlist on screen now to master minor key songwriting.